Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Tamara Barnett. I'm a registered nurse working in Victoria, and I'm going to talk about really like a program that came out of grassroots, just between myself and another nurse that works in corrections. So these are my disclosures. I live in Canada, so that's a picture of Canada. Where the red circle is actually where the Kool-Aid Community Health Centre is. So in Victoria on Vancouver Island. If you go any farther, you're just like in the water. So it's a great spot to be, but it is the home of the Lekwungen-speaking people, First Nations community, specifically Songhees, and I see the impact of colonization every day in the work that I do. So I just want to acknowledge that. I'll just go back one here. So Kool-Aid Community Health Centre is an inner city community health center. It's under the umbrella of the Victoria Kool-Aid Society, and it's a nonprofit society that has housing. So we house over 550 people in support of housing sites. We also have shelters, 4 shelters, including a women's only shelter. We have one of the only nonprofit dental clinics in the country, which is super cool. And within that, that's where I work, is the Community Health Center. We also have support services for people, employment services and such. I have over 800 people on opiate agonist treatment, and we're very proud of our nurse-led programs, which include, as well as Hep C, STBBI testing and treatment anonymously, so that's quite interesting, PrEP and DoxyPEP programs, as well as Hep C microelimination. Whoops. So Kool-Aid's nurse-led program, we've actually had a nurse-led program since way back in the days. The old interferon days is when we started our nurse-led program, so we've really had to adapt and change to the times. Around 2018, which is when the DAAs became, I would say, like, accessible to patients in Canada, is when we started microelimination projects. But at that time, we actually didn't have a word for it. We learned that microelimination at INSU was actually what we were doing, and we learned that task shifting at INSU was actually what we were doing. So that was really cool. So we've done microeliminations in 13 supportive housing sites, COVID-19 sheltering sites, as well as local studies with pharmacies, OAT clinics. So because we've also had a peer program for over all those years, we've really had to morph that peer program. So we used to have a peer support group for, the old interferon days, and now our peer program has morphed more so into outreach testing. And then as we've been really successful at really eliminating Hep C in our community, I found that people were becoming a little bit harder and harder to treat, and we were moving around our community rapidly. And so our peers decided that they would like to help, and now they deliver Hep C treatment medications out in the community to where people are, so making it more accessible. We're also a teaching site for a lot of clinicians locally, nationally, and through INSU, we've had a lot of international colleagues come, so that's been super cool. So as we were eliminating hepatitis C in Victoria on Vancouver Island, I started to notice that a lot of my patients, my clients, were going to our local correctional center, Vancouver Island Regional Correctional Center. It's a provincial correctional center, so it's important to note that when you are here, your sentence is 2 years less a day. Most people don't stay 2 years less a day. They're in and out really quickly. It's a revolving door. And what would happen is that I would lose patients and then find when they were back in the community that they'd actually been at VIRCC for 9 months, where I could have treated their hepatitis C and actually have cured them pretty easily because we knew where they were, right? And so I started to kind of investigate. There was this weird dynamic between VIRCC and Kool-Aid, where we would call and say, I think you might have our patient. If you do, they're due for their Sublocade injection. And they would say, I can't give you that information, because of course it's confidential, and that was really challenging. So really I had to build this relationship with them. Like it took 5 years, so it was really slow. And so how we got around that was really saying, like, if you have my patient, they're due for their antipsychotic injection, would you like me to fax that prescription to you? And then the nurse would say, no. Or they would say, yes, please. And so that's how I kind of started to figure out that, okay, we're trying to build like some kind of trust here. I think it's also important to know, if you're going to do a program in a local prison, is to understand the context. In Victoria, you can see like prison looks the same. It looks like a castle. So what it looks like inside really, really matters. So we started a partnership between Kool-Aid and VIRCC. We had the nurses actually come to Kool-Aid, meet us, see what the clinic looked like, and that was super helpful, like, try to build trust with the other nurses. And then one of the nurses really took it on with me, and she was like, I think we should call a meeting with the warden. And I said, great. So we had a meeting with the warden, got some data from BC CDC, so I was able to prove that Hep C treatment wasn't happening and should be happening, so that was really helpful. Got security clearance. We started offering, incentives. They wanted to offer incentives. Our first testing event was a total epic failure, and the reason for that was the context of the jail matters. And so when you're moving someone from where they are on their unit down to the health center, if that's where you're going to do the testing, it takes 25 minutes because you're standing in a box, the door opens. Then you're standing in a box, the next door opens, because you don't know what's happening on the other side, so they might be moving someone else around. So we tested 4 people in 5 hours, and I was like, guys, we got to do something. So we had another meeting with the warden. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a drink. Thank you. And so we had another meeting with the warden, and I said, there's some great projects happening around the world, like I'm looking at MIM right now. They go up to the unit, and they do testing events on the unit, and the warden said, okay, sure, you can try that, but I'm going to go with you. And I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work. So up we went with the warden, standing right next to me. We let everybody out of their cells, and they all just looked straight at the warden standing next to me, and everyone just kind of stood there, which was a good experience because then I was able to say, okay, this isn't working. You can't come with me. They won't, that won't work. And so over time, we kept working, and now we just go up to the units and do all of the testing. We test 30 to 40 people all at once. We usually do 80 people every time I go. So just got to keep working on things when they don't work, right? The model of care, because people are coming and going, these are all of the people that are involved in the model of care. Now, how I work with the local jail is that when someone gets discharged or just let go, I say, call me. Please call me, because they don't have time, they're so busy, to sort out now that their patient or their person has gone to the hospital. Okay, they're back at corrections. Okay, now they're in, drug and alcohol treatment program. Now they're back to corrections. Just call me, and I will sort out their hepatitis C treatment. And that's really been a great partnership. I think there's a lot of things to think about when you're developing a program. Obviously the criminalization of substance use. We saw some great presentations by people in the audience about these sort of things. But when I think about what I can change as a frontline nurse, these are things we can talk about, but I can't kind of change these things as a frontline nurse. But I can start building relationships with other nurses to change what the reality is for my patient. I do think if we're going to do any kind of testing in corrections, we do have to think about what it means to get a positive diagnosis of anything and then go sit with no support in your cell. So I just want to draw attention to that. When I think about Hep C and eliminating and the World Health Organization, I think that there's many phenomenal hepatitis C programs around the world that I've definitely heard through INSU. But I also think that if we're just focusing on a hepatitis C, that's not enough, right? There's many other STBBIs that we should be focusing on as well. And within our awesome models of Hep C care, can we expand and create other sort of services? I think that's important. Due to what I need pre-treatment blood work in my province, and so doing rapid testing, like using a Cepheid machine or a quick test doesn't quite work, because I still need blood work to prove the level of fibrosis and whatnot, so phlebotomy is important. I think routine opt-out testing is also super important. I would say about that, when I talk to the nurses that actually work in corrections, they absolutely hate this idea. And when you talk to them further about that, in BC, you sit in city cells for many days in a severe, severe withdrawal. And then you get to VIRCC and you have to chase that withdrawal. Operating something opt-out testing on that day doesn't really work, right? So I think there might be some room there to offer opt-out testing within the first 5 days. And I also wonder a little bit about self-testing. When I have talked to people who are in corrections about Hep C self-testing or just self-testing in general, they basically have said to me, Tam, we're so bored here. If you set up self-testing, I would do anything. We're so bored. And so I think that that's an option to create other kind of programming. So take-home messages. As nurses, we definitely can build partnerships with the corrections in our local communities. Through relational practice, I think we're really, really great at that. It's going to take some time, and it's going to take some phone calls. It might take bringing a coffee to somebody or asking them for lunch. But that's one of my big take-home messages. If we're only testing for hepatitis C, I think we have to think, should we only be testing for hepatitis C? Should we also be offering vaccines for hepatitis A and B or other publicly funded vaccines, depending on where you are from? And shouldn't people that are in corrections be receiving the same amount of care that they're receiving in the community, or even better? So those are some things I think about. So I know I talked really fast, but I'm pretty nervous, so I'm going to sit down. Thanks, everyone.